continue to exploit the nature. Today, world is facing an outbreak and millions of people have lost their life. We have to understand, if nature are here, then we are.
Stop the same, no more destruction.
Thank you so much. That was a video that we made collectively to give a message that how same things keep on happening, and we are like tied up with that same thing. Well, moving ahead, you know that this is an opening ceremony that we are celebrating today. And as you know, the theme of this opening ceremony is parallel with the CBD theme, that is, we are part of the solution. So why we are part of the solution? What do you think? How can we be part of the solution? We have eminent speakers. We have guest speakers today with us, and they will be sharing their experiences. They will be talking about what they think about it, and they will enlighten us with their thoughts. But before that, I think I will now just introduce you to my friend from Germany, who's responsible for creating a world network. I know Christian Schwarzer since 2014, and he has dedicated his entire life in empowering the youth around the world. So let me introduce a little bit about Christian. I'm not sure whether Christian knows about this thing, but we did a research on his background. So Christian was born in Germany, who studied history and political science, but he's interested primarily on international environmental policies. He participated in 17 rounds of UN negotiations since 2006. He's an active member of NAU, which is a German environmental youth organization. He's a deputy chairman of the working group Biodiversity in the German NGO Forum on Environment and Development. In 2011, he was youth representative on the Ethics Commission on the German government's nuclear phase-out. Between 2007 and 2012, he led 7 youth delegates to UN conferences and organized 6 major youth conferences. He is co-founder of Global Youth Biodiversity Network, of which the Indian chapter is a sister organization, which links with young biodiversity activists, researchers worldwide, and represents their interest in the CBD. Since 2011, he is youth ambassador for the UN Decade for Biodiversity. I'll just make Christian the co-host. I think he's already the co-host, and he will be sharing his presentation on what is CBD, what is Gibbon is all about. So Christian.
Thank you, Bharat. Thank you so much for this. For a moment when you said you were researching my background, I was scared. Shit, maybe he will find something that I don't want people to know. But I think it was okay. You didn't go to all the dirty parts. Well, the truth is, it always sounds so nice when somebody reads all these things. But the reality is that I struggled a lot. Like, I certainly didn't spend my whole life working on biodiversity, Bharat. That's not true. I spent a lot of time in school, and actually I'm from a town in the west of Germany and from a family where nobody is an environmentalist. Like, my town is one of the most industrialized, one of the most habitat fragmented, it used to be one of the most polluted cities that you can imagine. Like, I wanted to, or I can later show you some pictures. We have the biggest highways in the countries going right through my cities. We have a huge pharmaceutical company here. And my dad was working for this pharmaceutical company. And when I was growing up, he would tell me the stories of how at night this company would dump whatever waste into the river because it was cheaper. And my parents were still convinced, even though the company was doing all of this, that one day I should work for this company because it will give me a stable job and a good income. So I was really struggling with that because that was the last thing I wanted to do. And I don't know how I ended up working in the biodiversity sector, but it was not something that came natural to me. Like until I was 18, 19, I didn't know that there were environmental organizations. I was really thinking I was the only crazy person that was trying to do something. And today I'm really happy to be here with you. I'm so happy that our Global Youth Biodiversity Network has grown so much, but it was not something that I had planned for. It was not something that I had expected. And I would never have thought that I would spend so much time of my life with doing all of these things. So this is really a message that I want to give to you guys before I start with my presentation. There are a few things in life that you can really plan out. Some things are just happening and you have to let them happen. But the most important thing is that you believe in your own passion, that you believe in the things that need to be changed, that you believe in your power, that you can change things. And I think Bharat is a wonderful example for that. As he said, I know him since 2014. And I remember, Bharat, now I have to reveal some dirty stuff because you tried so hard to find some on me. In 2014, it was his first trip outside of India. And I could not have been prouder that the network that I helped to found enabled people to leave their home countries, to connect with other people. And we had so much fun. And Bharat had so many culture shock the first time he left India and met with international youth. And since then, he's like a mainstay in our team. And Bharat, I'm just so happy that you're part of it. I'm so grateful for all the work you're doing. And it's just amazing. It's just completely amazing what you do and how you rally people behind you. All right, I actually was thinking I'm going to jump right into my presentation. I should do this now. Just give me 1 second. I know that COVID-19 is currently raging havoc in your country. I see it every day here in the news, and I just want to say that I hope that your families, your friends, that all your loved ones are okay, that those of you who got the virus have recovered without problems. I hear that the situation is so bad in India that probably many of you at least know people that are in the hospital that are suffering, and I just want to send my prayers, my support, and I really hope that India will get out of this wave, that the vaccination campaign that is picking up pace in your country is going to further be accessible to all the people. And yeah, I just want you to tell that the world is seeing what is happening in India, and I hope that it will pass. All right, Bharat, now I should start talking about Gibbon, right? Okay, cool. Yeah,
Yes.
just give me 1 second to share my screen. All right, I will keep this as short as possible. Okay, it seems I was just kicked out of the meeting, but I think now it should work. Bharat, can you hear me? I seem to be having
Yes.
some issues.
Yes, Christian, I can hear you. Maybe like you can start before like the screen. Yeah, we can see the screen.
Now it works. Okay. All right, wonderful. Sorry for this. Yes, so I'm going to start telling you a little bit about Gibbon, and I want to use this opportunity to just welcome you all to the family. Thank you so much for joining this event. Thank you for being here. Gibbon is a global platform that has one goal. We want to bring young people from all walks of life, from all backgrounds, youth organizations, young people that are working in science, in biology, in national parks, in business. We want to bring them together to show the world that young people care about biodiversity and that we want to stop the halt, that we want to stop the loss of biodiversity. We're also recognized as the official coordination platform for youth participation in the Convention on Biological Diversity. I will talk about this in a second. And this is how Gibbon looks like at the moment. Personally, I would really never have thought that it would grow that much. But I think if you're just stubborn enough and if you don't give up for some time, some great things can happen. So at the moment, we're representing 1.2 million members all over the world. We have over 600 member organizations. We have 50 chapters. And on this map, you can see all the wonderful chapters that we have around the world. And I'm glad that you're now also part of this wonderful network that we have formed. Some of the areas that we work on include policy and advocacy. We're really trying to bring young people together to talk to decision makers and to communicate to them what are the views of young people and why and how we want them to protect biodiversity. We also do a lot of empowerment and capacity building activities like this event today. I will talk about this in a second a little bit more. And like we do today, we want to mobilize young people. We want to bring you to events. If there is no COVID, we want you to go to the street. We want to cry out to the world. We want to shout out, and we want to remind decision makers that we are there and that the politics, the policies that they are adopting really need to take into account our interest and the interest of our generation, because it is our world that they are taking decisions about. And very important for Gibbon is alliance building. We really believe that no organization can do something as big as trying to halt the loss of biodiversity alone. This is something that all of us has to do, all organizations, all different parts of government. And the little contribution that we're trying to bring to the table is that we bring youth organizations from everywhere together to work on this. This is a wonderful guidebook that I would encourage you to download. It's on our website on gybn.org/publications. It's called CBD in a Nutshell. And it's really nice and easy to understand guidebook on how the CBD process is working. I'm going to talk about the CBD process in a few moments, but if you're wondering what this all is about, go to gybn.org/publications, download the guidebook, and you will understand how this is all actually working. I mentioned this before, capacity building is one of the most important things that we're doing in our network. So far, we have organized 9 workshops. I think 1 workshop is not included here. Including 1 workshop in 2018 in Hyderabad. And we're really hoping that we can do more of these workshops. These are not workshops where you just come and you have a good time. No, this is a 1-week training where we teach you about the CBD, biodiversity loss, and what you can do. And then in the second half of the week, you have to come up with concrete projects to tackle the loss of biodiversity in your community. Yeah, this is a little bit of an overview of all the chapters that we have created. Back in 2016, we had 1 given chapter in Mexico, and now we have more than 50 chapters all over the world. So I'm really happy about it. And Bharat made an unbelievable effort to help coordinate Gibbon India together with other people that are here in this call. So a massive thanks to all of you for making sure that we have a chapter in your beautiful country. All right, that would be it about Gibbon. Brad, shall I continue right away with a little bit about the CBD?
Yes, Christian, that would be really great.
Okay. So then let's get into this. All right, I hope my computer is, yeah, okay, it works. So now I have worked a little bit about Gibbon, and I mentioned to you that one of our key areas of work is the Convention on Biological Diversity. And I understand that a lot of you are joining a meeting on biodiversity for the first time. So I just want to give you a little bit of an overview what the CBD is, why it is important, and how you can get engaged in the process. So everything started before many of you were born in 1992. there was a huge conference that took place in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro, the Earth Summit. And at this conference, 3 international environmental agreements were adopted. The Convention on Biological Diversity, the CBD, the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, the UNFCCC, and the UNCCD, the UN Convention to Combat Desertification. And these 3 international agreements are being referred to as the Rio Conventions. So that's important to keep in mind. Almost 30 years ago, people came together, they adopted these 3 conventions, and the CBD is one of them. The CBD has 3 overarching goals: the conservation of biodiversity, the sustainable use of biodiversity, and the fair and equitable sharing of benefits arising from the use of genetic resources. And while the first and the second objective are quite easy to understand, the third one is already a bit more complicated. This is basically to ensure that no other country can come to yours, take out your genetic resources, and then make a profit with it without sharing these profits with the provider country. But we're going to talk about this in a few moments. What you can see here is how universal the CBD is. Almost every country in the world is a party to the CBD. That means they have signed it, they have ratified it, and they have committed to implement the CBD and its provisions on the national level. There's only 2 countries that have not ratified the CBD. The one is the Vatican, because they have a policy that they don't join environmental agreements in general. And the other one is the US, and that is mostly for political reasons. But that would be a story for another day. But let's see, there is actually currently a movement to push the US to join the CBD. Why is the CBD important? Well, first, what is important to understand is we need these international environmental agreements because biodiversity loss is nothing that happens just in India or just in Germany or just in France or Bolivia. It is something that is a global phenomenon. And we can only tackle this if countries work together. So that's why we need these international agreements. And what is important about the CBD is that it's the first time that we have such an international agreement that officially commits all countries to stop the business as usual, to stop the same, and to prevent the loss of biodiversity. And that sounds like something very little, something that I would take for granted, something that I would think countries have agreed on like 70 years ago, right? Like maybe after World War II, they agreed on this in the 50s, but this didn't happen. This was only something that we had officially agreed in 1992. So this is important that we have this and that all countries are standing behind it. So in this way, the CBD gives all these countries a mandate to work together and to address the loss of biodiversity. And what is also important is that it's a platform where countries can come together, where they can meet, where they can talk, and ideally where they can collaborate. And what the CBD also does is that it sets standards that everybody should follow when they conserve biodiversity. Bharat is telling me that I have 2 minutes left. I'll stretch this to a few more minutes, but I'll try to go through it more quickly now. So what you can see here are some of the work areas that the CBD is working on. So you see it's not just conservation, it's also other issues like gender and biodiversity, communication, health issues, climate change, but then also all different aspects of biodiversity conservation that you can see on this slide here. There is the CBD Secretariat, which is like the administrative body. They're based in Montreal, in Canada. And then we have one very important decision-making body that is meeting every year, well, as long as there is no pandemic. And the next meeting is supposed to be in China, maybe in October this year, but we don't really know for sure. And this is a meeting. There was one meeting that actually happened in Hyderabad, where a lot of you are from, in 2012. And this is where all the governments that are part of the CBD are coming together to take decisions on how the CBD is going to be implemented. But what is even more important, and because this is a national event, are national biodiversity strategies and action plans. And I'm so happy because we have two people that are going to speak after me here. We have Archana, we have Mr. Muti sir, who are really working in practice what biodiversity conservation means. So what I'm telling you is a little bit of like the international framework. And every government that is part of the CBD is legally obliged to create such a national biodiversity strategy and action plan. But how this plan is then being implemented on the local level, in your community, in your village, in your state, this is something where Murti sir and Archana can give you some better perspectives on. But I just want to mention these MB subs to you because every country in the world that has signed the CBD needs to have one. These national biodiversity strategies are usually guided by targets that every government that is part of the CBD agrees on. The last time this happened was in 2010 in Nagoya, when the so-called Aichi targets were adopted. And you can see them all over here. It's 20 targets. And when they were adopted back in 2010, we were all celebrating because they have a very strong language. They are very ambitious. And back then we were really thinking, if countries are going to do what is in these targets, then we have a real chance to stop the loss of biodiversity. So we have targets, for instance, that we're committing all countries to eliminate subsidies that are harmful to biodiversity. We have targets on protected areas. We have targets that would double financial resources for biodiversity. So these targets were actually really cool. And Bharat, I'm going to finish. Just give me 1 or 2 more minutes, please. This is what it looks like today. You can see all these red and yellow arrows here. And the red and yellow arrows basically mean that we have failed to achieve the target. And there are many reasons why we have failed to achieve these targets. We have failed because there was a lack of political will, because politicians over the last 10 years forgot that they had adopted these targets. That really happened. It happened because some politicians, some ministries were committed to implement these targets, while others were not. And let's face it, environmental ministries are usually not the most powerful ones in the country. There are ministries of economy, ministry of finance, and it's a constant struggle between these ministries. So that was one of the reasons. The other reason was that there were not enough financial and other resources to make sure that we could implement it. So we cannot allow this to happen again. What I also want to highlight are some of the targets where we actually made progress. When you look to target 11, you can see there are 2 targets where we're actually in the green. And this is very interesting. And Archana is going to talk about this a little bit more, maybe. These are the targets on protected areas. So we had an Aichi target that committed all the countries to protect 17% of the land area. And on paper, a lot of countries said, yes, we have protected 17%. But what does this mean in reality? You know, what does this mean in terms of management of the protected area? What does this mean about the indigenous people that are living in these areas? These are all questions that this target has not covered. So whenever you see a target that comes with a number, be skeptical, ask questions, come up with quality criteria. Numbers alone are not enough to give us an indicator that we're going to be successful. We also need to look into how it is being done, how people are being involved, how governments are working together, how we are protecting nature. The how is absolutely important here. And Bharat, I'm going to finish in 30 seconds, I promise. We now have one more chance to learn from our lessons from the Aichi targets. And again, you can see we failed. We failed with achieving these targets. What we're currently doing in the CBD is that we're negotiating a new 10-year and a new 30-year plan for biodiversity. And that's the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework. It is planned to be adopted at this next COP meeting in China, and we need to make sure that the targets are right, that we really have all the means to implement it, that we have the political commitment, that politicians not going to run away, that we do it with the people and for the people, that we engage local communities, indigenous people, women, and that young people can also play a role in it, because this is about our future. And this is how I want to close my presentation. I'm sorry for going over time, but like I said at the beginning, please believe in yourself. Please believe in your capacity that you can change something. And there are a lot of wonderful people here in this call. We have more than 50 people that you can talk to, that can support you. So let's work together and let's make sure that we're not going to fail next time with achieving our biodiversity targets. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Christian. I mean, it was always pleasure listening to you, and it's so enlightening. I'm sure that some of them who are quite new to CBD should have understood at least the basics about it and the relevance of CBD, and also its linking with national strategies. So yeah, I think I apologize that we have like not much of time, but still like you have covered relevant points. But I'm damn sure that you're always available, and we can get back to you anytime. Well, thank you again, and we will discuss further. We will have some questions for you, but we will do it later. Now, I request my colleague Jonathan to share. This will be an ice-breaking session where like you just share like how you're feeling. So my colleague Jonathan already shared with you the link. You just click on that link and express like how you are feeling today. Wow. Yeah, excited always. Connected, fantastic. Which is needed right now. Let's wait for other responses. Hopeful. Yes, we are all hopeful. Motivated. Great. We should all be motivated always. Any more responses? Lost. Yes, it happens. Energized. It's great. Enjoying. Enlightening. Wow, I feel energetic. Yes, everyone here happy. Curious. Good. Wow. Lot of optimism. Enthusiastic. Yes. Yes, waiting for more responses. I feel energetic. Wow. Nervous. Yeah, it happens. We are nervous, but again, confusion leads to clarity. Yes, we have. Yeah, I think that sounds really great. We'll just like go to the next. Yeah, we got good response on this. We'll just go to the next question. We are getting more responses. Ready? Yes, I think we'll just go to the next question now. If Jonathan can share the next slide, I will just. The next question is, where are you from? Well, India is a big country. I think we have guests even from Pakistan here. And let's see like which part of India you are from. Karnataka. Great. Tamil Nadu, Madhya Pradesh, Telangana. Madhya Pradesh, Telangana, India, Pakistan, Maharashtra. Wow. People are coming from different states, especially southern India. Karachi, Pakistan. Karachi is a beautiful place. Kerala. That's interesting. Yes. Telangana. Yeah, we have a lot of Telangana. It's applied for this session. I have to tell you, like, it was in Hyderabad that Gibbon started, Gibbon India started. But it was earlier, we started as a provincial state biodiversity network. Yeah, Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh. I love Bhopal, city of lakes. Tanjavur, Tamil Nadu. Wow, amazing. Great. I think we have good responses from different parts of the world, different parts of regions in India. We got one more response. Chennai. As you can see that we have good diverse people over here. And I once again thank you all for joining. We will now move ahead now. I think this is the time to come to the core part of this ceremony, and to invite our guest speakers. So first I will do my favors inviting Mr. Murthy sir, but before he speaks, I request Priyansh from Madhya Pradesh to address and introduce Murthy sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, Priyansh. You are.
So good evening, ladies and gentlemen, dignitaries and friends. It is indeed my great pleasure to introduce you all to Honorable Mr. Rangaiah Srinivas Murthy sir from the prestigious Indian Forest Services. He has spent his entire career working in the field of biodiversity and its conservation. He served and contributed by his efforts working in various wildlife divisions of Madhya Pradesh. He also served in the Madhya Pradesh Academy of Administration and also as the field director of Panna Tiger Reserve from 2009 to 2015. He has written the State Manual for Annual Wildlife Population Estimation for Madhya Pradesh and invented a field tiger tracing kit in the year 2000. He played a major role in reviving the Gangtik Gharial populations of National Chambal Sanctuary and wrote the management plan for the area. He started Bhopal bird watching camps as well. Along with it, he was the leader of the team that revived the Panna tigers from 0 to 32 by implementing the world-famous Panna Tiger Reintroduction Project. During his tenure, Panna Tiger Reserve got the Award for Excellence in Active Management from the National Tiger Conservation Authority in 2012 and 2014. He started programs like Panna Nature Camps and Panna Vulture Estimation Program as well. For his works, he received the all-round Best Wildlifer Award from Wildlife Institute of India in 1993, Bagh Mitra Award to 2011 from World Wildlife Federation India, the Pacific Travel Association Award in 2012, RBS Earth Hero Medal in 2015, Madhya Pradesh Gaurav Samman in 2016 for the Panna Tiger Reintroduction Project, Medal and Award for Excellence in 2016. He was invited by Cambodia as an expert of tiger reintroduction in 2017. He visited China and USA for various works as well. He and his efforts motivate and inspires us to always do whatever we can with whatever we have and wherever we are. Today, Indian Youth Biodiversity Network is privileged and fortunate to have Murthy sir at the opening ceremony of our Forum of Biodiversity. Now, we request Murthy sir to address the session with his inspiring keynote message. Thank you.
So, thank you, Piyush. And thank you all Global Youth Biodiversity Network team members It's a very happy occasion to be all youngsters with you, to be here with everyone. And this is my, in all probability, fifth and final uh, event program with respect to International Biodiversity Day that I am addressing my colleagues around throughout the country. And luckily, this being an international event, it does have colleagues from other countries also. I wish everyone on this occasion very happy International Biodiversity Day and greetings to everyone on this occasion. I have a very limited time, but still I would like to do some justice for which you have requested me to be here, invited me here. I have a very small presentation, but still I hope the presentation will be able to help everyone. One most important issue, especially I would like to request with Christian is, there was a poster in your introductory video which said no more destruction. I would like to add one word into that particular issue: no more destructive development. Development is going to happen. Whatever way you are going to say yes or no, development will happen. But we have to make people aware that we don't want destructive development. That is the real cause in which big soup the entire human beings or humanity is there presently. I strongly believe that we thoroughly misused and disused the entire biodiversity and the mother planet here, thereby inviting all the disease around onto ourselves. It's like COVID has not come to us. We had gone to the trap of the COVID. I think everybody understands what I am telling here. If it is so, and it is strongly, it is a truth and it is a fact. Who said you to go to a bat to destroy it? Who asked you to go and do some trade with pangolin? And similarly, there are umpteen number of diseases that jump from a particular animal to human beings. That is Homo sapien. For virus, you are just a host. You can't be Bharat, you can't be Christian, you can't be Murthy, or you can't be Sudha, or you can't be somebody else, or Archana. I'm taking the names that are available here. In a human society, you may be big or small with respect to your social hierarchy or positional hierarchy. But for COVID, you are just simply a human being and a host. How we are forgetting it, this particular aspect. At this juncture, I strongly request Christian, because he is the man who can really do some churning over this issue and bring this issue into the international, flag this issue at the international level, is that please let us flag one issue that without a strong ecological foundation, there cannot be any economic development of the globe around. I am speaking for the country like India, which over last 70 years has achieved something with respect to its economic development. But in last 14 months, we have been dragged back. Why? We have to put a serious question ourselves, but nobody is asking this question with anybody. It is happening because we fail to understand, or we ignore to understand, that we don't need any ecological foundation. And without ecological foundation, any country for that matter cannot progress. Over last 7 years, because of the global warming and climate change, you are having umpteen number of untold miseries for everybody in the name of cyclones, in the name of famines, and in the name of finally COVID. Is anybody at the policy level, policy making level is understanding this aspect? If an ecologist, if a biologist says something, his voice is not being listened. If we are going to catch a right type of economist and impress him that this is the basic truth on which we have to treat our development, then in all probability, people will start listening to you. In the first wave of the COVID, India has lost, has stood at minus 23.4% with respect to GDP. And with the second wave, just you can add to it what is going to happen to it. So many livelihoods has been lost. And it's because we never bothered to care for our Mother Earth. This is the basic essence of the biodiversity conservation. Unless we take care of the Mother Earth and the biodiversity aspects of the life here, we are not going to sustain. And without the other life, human's life is not going to be there forever. It's for the basic essence of our lives and sustenance, our stability of the human race. We have to understand this core component of the entire issue. But with every one of you, I'm going to submit one issue with the folded hands, because biodiversity has become a very fashionable word. Everybody speaks about it. But when it comes to do something on the ground, except for the euphoria, nothing happens on the ground. Are very minimal issues happen on the ground when somebody really picks up the issue, core issue. That's what I am going to really focus here. So, from last 29 years, when the CBD came into existence in 1992, after its adoption in 1993, 10 years lag was there before in India we could enact Biodiversity Act. Then biodiversity boards came into existence between 2004 and 2005. And then because these are all the executing agencies at the federal level, national level we would have a biodiversity authority. But at the same time, when it comes to national strategy and action plans, we have to assess ourselves where we stand. That's a very important issue. And the youth forums can create a ambience around. But finally, every individual being part of a three-tier system where the biodiversity management committees are there at the ground level, that is at the local body level, they can really do wonders around. That is where the youth can chip in. But I'm going to put a very big blame onto the youth of this, at least my country. Many of the youth are only want to stay in big cities. They have left the villages. Why? Why can't the youth can dedicate their 10 years of life for a village, in sitting in a village or a cluster of villages? Because you have real power there in empowering and executing something with respect to biodiversity conservation. Because Biodiversity Management Committee in my country is an independent and statutory body. Who stopped you to go and intervene there? Please do it. That's an important issue. Now, I will share some 4 to 5 to 10 slides and then attend to the issue why we need to conserve the biodiversity. That's a very essential issue. Just allow me 2 minutes. And then the host has disabled me for sharing. Please allow me for sharing.
I think you can start now.
Okay. Oh, it starts from the beginning, no issue. Are you able to see the screen sharing, please?
Yes, sir, we can.
First of all, the youth has to understand, if we want to do something, where we need to intervene, that is an important issue. It requires some little elaborate detailing there. But since my focus will be on why, I am not going to say what needs to be done if we want to do why. We have to take care of our land resources. That's very important. We have to take care of the water resources, and then we have to ensure the air quality. And then what I mean to say here by land resources, water resources, and air quality, I clearly tell we have to take care of the terrestrial biodiversity. Both are at all the three levels of genetic, species, and ecosystem level. And we have to take care of the aquatic ecosystems, both at genetic, species, and ecosystem level. And air quality. Air quality is very, very important. I just tell you one very important role play, why it is important to understand. Just, I am not going to play any game with you because of the shortage of the time that I do have here. You can play this role play very interestingly with anybody and everybody, starting from a 5-year kid to 100-year-old gentleman. You ask one person to stay effectively and do all his jobs around without food. For how long? The question for the why is I am answering here. Any human being on this earth cannot stay effectively for more than 7 days without food. Effectively means just living is not going to happen. You have to live effectively doing all your work. So you need energy. And second thing, ask the gentleman to stay effectively without water. It will be only limited for few hours. Then say finally, close his nose and mouth and stop breathing, or halt his breathing. Any expert cannot live without taking breathing for more than 3 minutes. Some special people are there that leave them. We are all very, very normal human beings. So all these products are made available to you through the ecosystem services and functions of the biodiversity. But at the same time, as a Homo sapien, we are taking it for granted. It comes to me. In the COVID scenario, oxygen has been, value of the oxygen has been recognized, at least in India, thoroughly. And then this is very important issue, why we need to conserve biodiversity around, because life eats only life. Life stays only in life, and without other life, we don't have any existence. Even if we want to become very selfish to ensure that we want the sustenance of the human race to be there in the times to come, we have to take care of the other life. Without other life, there is no any security for yourself. Just imagine about the dinosaur. Dinosaur was a very mega herbivore as well as a carnivore. In all probability, it should have started eating everything that is available around that time. Nature wiped out the entire dinosaur era in a matter of seconds. Let us feel happy that a meteorite fall is not there onto us. Otherwise, we also could have been wiped out. Pandemic in the name of Corona and then earlier Swedish flu is only some attempts of the nature to make you understand, bloody fellow, get rectified. If we are not going to get rectified, then there's a problem. So for food security, for water security, for our oxygen security, life-saving air, and then to regulate the disease jump from natural ecosystem to Homo sapiens. That is what we are perceiving today. As I said, Corona has not come to us. We went to the Corona. So in the future, we have to think one thing. Are we not going to get another Corona after this Corona? Yes, unless we stop our misusing, disusing the mother planet for our own benefit in a selfish way, you will have fun for next time. So there comes the issue of regulating the another pandemic with respect to dealing with the health security. So I hope I made some sense by releasing my anguish with all of you. And this is what the terrestrial ecosystems we are managing to great extent, but this need to be managed like this. And this is what the aquatic systems that we are destroying around, and this need to be managed like this. And And this is what the air quality that we are maintaining around, this need to be managed like this. Over last 14 months, starting from Corona, now the air quality is very good all around. But still we are dying for want of oxygen because Corona has initiated something else in you. That's a very important issue. And then we do have a national song which says Vande Mataram, and which again describes Sujalam, Sufalam, Malaja Sitalam, Sasyashyamalam. And for such a country where I had a good water, pure water, very pure fruit, food around, then cool country breeze, and then good greenery all around. For such a country, I wanted to say my salutes to there. But today, if we will consider the entire planet, the terrestrial ecosystems, aquatic ecosystems, and air quality has got dropped very, very, very badly. Christian was telling the pharmaceutical company used to go and dump the waste into the rivers. It's happening everywhere. So we have to reverse these things, and it's possible. And as a human beings, we are so scrupulous that it took almost 100 crores of years before a ozone layer comes, which is the basis of life on the earth. And in less than 200 years, we have started breaking it at the cost of our own life. So we have to rectify ourselves, and we have to bring back these issues into the reality in action. Then only sustainable goals of 14, 15, these are the two issues which are the basis of ecological foundation. Then only rest of the developmental goals can be achieved. If we are going to pin this issue onto the policy makers and decision makers, then only things can move in the right direction. And then there are indicators for these, all the ecosystems. Topmost predators are the best indicators of a good terrestrial ecosystem. Similarly, you have other indicators for the aquatic ecosystems, and then for air quality also. It doesn't require much of explanation because of want of time. So for these issues, we need to maintain, what should I say, our biodiversity in a proper way. And then, as I said, we have to be careful in playing with the fire. Already we are there in the fire because of Corona. And then if we don't learn a lesson from here and rectify ourselves as a human beings and take right decisions, again, we will be in a big soup in the times to come. So I would like to stop here. And then, of course, all the good people said very many things, and our father of the nation has said so, but it is for us to implement on day-to-day basis these things. So we are wise as a human beings. The definition of the Homo sapien is that we are wise, but are we good? That is the real question we need to answer. And unless we are good, we cannot live in harmony with nature, as the Aichi target tells, and then let the wisdom prevail. And then request all the participants to go to the Madhya Pradesh Biodiversity website, where you have the strategy and action plan for Madhya Pradesh written in very simplified language, which maybe have some help to every one of you. And I wish all the best for the Youth Forum to really bring in some real change for the next generation to come at least. Thank you, everybody. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir, for the inspiring and enlightening session. I hope that most of us will learn something from here, and will definitely follow your instructions. It's really insightful and very straightforward. Thank you once again, sir. I think before we have some question for you, now I request Shraddha to introduce Ms. Archana Soran.
Ladies and gentlemen, dignitaries and friends, it's a great pleasure for me to introduce our speaker today, who has been a role model for many of the youngsters, as well as true role model for women empowerment, Ms. Archana Soran, an honorable member of UN Secretary General Youth Advisory Group on Climate Change. Ms. Soran is an environmental activist belonging to indigenous Carrier tribe from Odisha. She has been working for awareness about climate change, documentations, and preservation and promotion of traditional knowledge. Her efforts and achievements motivates us a lot. She had given unforgettable contribution in this field. Ms. Soran has been elected as one of the 7 members of Youth Advisory Group Climate Change that is established by Secretary General of United Nations. She is also a research officer at Vasundhara in Odisha. It's a great honor to have you as a guest speaker. Now I request Ms. Archana Soren to address the session and convey her message. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shraddha, for your kind introduction, and respected Murthy sir and all the organizers of this interaction. Warm greetings to each and everyone. Johar. And it's a pleasure to be here amongst you all, discussing on this, on the issue of biodiversity conservation. And as we celebrate International Biodiversity Day today, and the theme is "We are part of solutions for nature." So the first point which I would like to emphasize in today's discussion is I would like to congratulate all the young people, those who have joined here for this discussion, because I feel this itself is a step from your end to know about biodiversity, to protect biodiversity. And I feel this participation is very crucial to show that you're willing to participate, you're willing to know. At the same time, I would like to emphasize that at this moment across India and across globe, there are many young peoples who are not being able to access spaces of discussion and participation in the biological diversity conversation. One is because of technology gap which we are facing, access of internet is what we are facing, access of electricity is what we are facing. And that is what brings me to highlight that the indigenous communities, the rural communities, those who are there, the frontliners of biodiversity conservation in the rural areas, have been playing a key and important role in terms of biodiversity conservation. But often their contribution are being missed, or their contributions are not being acknowledged. And that is why it is very important to ensure that the indigenous and the local communities are able to participate in this entire discourse of biodiversity conservation. Along with that, I would also like to emphasize that, yes, when we are talking that we are part of solution, we youth are part of solution. We youth are willing to be part of solution. But in order to be part of the solution, we are also facing various challenges. And that is why I feel it is very important that free and enabling spaces for young people is very, very important to participate in this entire discourse of biodiversity conservation. And that is where I feel the government and the policy makers needs to create safe spaces and need to come up with laws and policies in order to protect the young people who are contributing and who are in the front line of the biodiversity conservation. The second thing which I would like to emphasize is when we are talking about being part of the solution, participation plays a very, very crucial role. And in order to ensure that there is participation, I feel we young people need to collectively come together. And when I say it is we young people collectively needs to come together, I think we are, and we are willing, and we are taking steps to break the barrier of digital divide which we are facing. And that is where I appeal that effort needs to be made from both the rural and the urban communities to interact with each other. And that is where I appeal that the urban communities need to ensure that they are also putting an effort to reach out to the rural communities and the rural youth and amplifying their voice and ensuring that their voices are being heard. And that is where I feel ensuring that there is language justice is also very crucial. What do I mean by language justice, and what do I emphasize when I say language justice is very important? We all are aware that India and as a globe, there are numerous language and there are numerous communities speaking different languages. I think it is very important that language translations are very crucial for the policies so that the individuals and the community members are able to access those information and are able to implement in the grassroots levels. And that would be very, very crucial in terms of ensuring that the policies are translated in the regional languages and ensuring that it is reaching to the community members. And also, when we are talking about participation, we need to make sure that there is voices from the rural communities and indigenous communities, and also interpretation available so that the global audience and the global policy making are able to understand and able to hear their voices. So I think both translation and interpretation is very crucial when we are talking about participation and when we are talking about part of solution, because the indigenous communities and local communities are already working and are already have various techniques, mechanism, the traditional knowledge and practices through what they have been contributing towards climate action and to what they have been contributing towards conservation. So I think it is very important to ensure that those voices are also amplified. And also moving further in terms of participation, I feel identification of young people and initiatives of the young people is very crucial. And this is a role which can be done by the civil society organization, the private entities, and also the government policy makers to identify where are the young people and what are the initiatives which are young people taking, whether raising the voice or whether coming up with entrepreneur skills or whether it is in terms of collective. So I think that effort in terms of identification would be very crucial, because at this point of time, many young people and young groups are doing a numerous amount of work, a lot of work in several parts, but collectively coming together is something which is very important, and that is why identification of work would be very, very crucial. And then the second and the last thing which I would like to emphasize when we are talking about participation is many a times people are not being able to participate because they are not aware about the opportunities. And those being aware of the opportunities is something which is very crucial, whether it is in terms of upcoming COP of CBD, what are the opportunities and how young people can participate is something which we as a team, we as a young people need to ensure that there is more and more amplifying of what are the opportunities. And at the same time, I think social media also can play a very important role, as we are seeing that it has been playing a very important role in terms of amplifying. So ensuring that we are able to share about the opportunities is very crucial, because it is only when people are aware about the opportunities they'll be able to participate and engage in the policy making spaces or in the decision making spaces. And to conclude this, I would like to say that youth should not be just taken as a token representative. And that is what we need to push for, and we need to raise our voices that we youth are not only mere young people, but we are professional, we are artists, we are singers, we are dancers, and a lot more writers, and a lot more qualities and expertise which we have, which can be used to ensure amplifying biodiversity conservation efforts and writing about biodiversity conservation. So I think it is very important that youth are also acknowledging themselves that no matter whichever sector or expertise I am having, but I can contribute towards climate action and I can contribute towards biodiversity conservation is very important. Which brings me down to my point is that what is my key message for the young people? My key message for the young people is that let us be aware about the situation of biodiversity in India. Let us read about it. Let us form circles amongst ourselves, which will enable us to read and understand about the biodiversity crisis which we are facing. And at the same time, it is very important to ensure that we raise our voice, because every voice matters. And that is what I would like to say, that read, share, and speak up in terms of biodiversity conservation. And moving ahead to the next segment of my intervention is like, I would like to share a few of my personal experiences in terms of work, in terms of biodiversity conservation. So the first thing which I would like to emphasize about is that there is a in terms of plantation. I think, and it is my belief, that protection of the natural forest is very important and crucial rather than plantation of the forest. So I think it is very important that we need to protect the existing forest along with working towards conservation and rejuvenation of the forest areas. And when we are talking about plantation drives, I think it is very important that we also ensure about sustainability and also ensure that the local communities' efforts and local communities' consent is taken. I'll just give a small example of my field area. I had gone for a field visit to Mayurbhanj district of Odisha. And there, the community leader said that people had come to plant trees in our village, and we resisted. So I was like, why did you resist when people had come to plant trees in your area? So they said they had brought plants which we did not want in our area. So I was like, what plant did they bring that you stopped them to plant in your areas? And they said they had brought mango trees and they had brought jackfruit trees. And I was like, mango trees and jackfruit trees are fruit trees, right? So it should not be a problem. Why did you stop them from planting those trees in your areas? And then the community leader, the indigenous leader, told me that if mango trees and jackfruit trees are planted in the periphery of the area, then wild boars will come to eat, then monkeys will come to eat, and elephants will come to eat. And when the wild animals will come to eat, and then they will destroy our agriculture, cultivation and land. So this itself was a very eye-opening conservation which I had, is that many a times plantation without taking the consent of the people and without understanding the location and biodiversity of the people can also be very, very problematic. And that is where the perspective of wildlife and human conflict starts. And then the indigenous leader said that for our area, it would be really good if we could have sal trees, which would be beneficial for the soil, land, and also for the communities. And that is what I felt, that, you know, why indigenous people, why knowledge of indigenous people, and why participation of indigenous people is so very important in terms of local level implementation of biodiversity conservation, which Kristen was also talking about. Like, you know, there are global policies and frameworks, but at the ground, at the lowest level, at the implementation level, it has to be with the indigenous people and local communities. And the next experience which I would like to share about is that like I come from a place which is highly mineral rich areas, and there have been many instances of mining and developmental projects. So I would like to emphasize that we economic policies needs to emphasize and prioritize the health of nature and people over greed and wealth accumulation, because when there have been developmental projects in the areas of the indigenous and local communities, they are not only destroying the areas and spoiling the biodiversity of that area, but they are also leading to climate crisis. They are leading to pollution, water degradation, and also leading to loss of agriculture and livelihood, which in a way is making the vulnerable, making the indigenous and local communities more vulnerable, which is like the communities who are protecting the forest through their traditional knowledge and practices. You are just taking their life and identity from them. Then who will protect? The question arises that, and that is why it is important that as we all are talking in the climate crisis movement and climate action movement, that we need to ensure that the developmental projects need to be in a needs to ensure that development is done in a sustainable way. And here I would like to raise a question to all of you all, and I always have been saying this is, it is very important for us young people to question, like, development for whom, by whom, and for what? Because in this example which I gave, it was development not for the indigenous and local communities who are living there, because their land is taken, and once the land is taken, the entire source of livelihood is taken. And also when they are given jobs, that jobs are not sustainable, the land is sustainable, and the money will at some point of time will get over. And also there have been evidence and research that people are not getting compensation. So what I would like to emphasize, that we as a young people need to understand, like, how developmental policies are contradictory with conservation policies and with climate policy. And I would like to end this particular instances with saying that we cannot have a biodiversity rich area if we continue with developmental projects. We cannot just this cannot go hand in hand. And I know it's difficult to accept, but I also would like that we young people need to understand that if we want biodiversity conservation, and if we want a rich in biodiversity, developmental projects and extraction and consumption pattern needs to be taken into check. And that is where it is very important to ensure that stories of the indigenous and local communities needs to be heard. They need to be made an integral part of the biodiversity discussion and decision-making process. And that is why I would also like to put this across here today. What is knowledge and what is experts is something which we need to think across, because, we also need to understand there are indigenous and local communities who are not educated. Formal education is something which they have not received, but they are the ones who are frontliners working for the community conservation and protecting the forest, preventing the timber mafias, and also doing daily patrolling, protecting from forest fires. So how far it is important to judge a people by the formal education parameter. We as a young people need to go beyond this formal education parameter and acknowledge the real efforts done by the frontliners of conservation and frontliners of the communities. And at the end, I would like to sum up by saying that climate crisis and biodiversity conservation, economic crisis, social and economic crisis cannot be seen in a different segment or compartment. It's all intertwined. And it is very important for us young people to understand that and ask our government and policymaker. We need to raise our voice and say that it is all interrelated. Even in COVID, we are seeing that. Lastly, I would like to just say that I come from a place which has cyclone twice a year. Affected twice a year, and it has been really very difficult here since COVID. Like, we had cyclones, we had forest fires, we are again going to have cyclone this week as per the prediction. So COVID is not, climate crisis is not stopping because COVID is here. We are facing both the things at this moment, and we need solution at this moment in a integrated approach. So I think this is how we need to push forward for a recovery from COVID in an integrated way of biodiversity conservation and climate action. And that is what we need to keep engaging and asking in the upcoming COP. And at the end, I would like to say that, we indigenous and local communities should be leaders of conservation and not victims of conservation. Thank you.
Thank you, Archana. That was one applaudable speech that you have given with great examples at the grassroots level, which I'm sure that it will be very like a new thing for most of us. And that's why we thought to invite you to like understand all these aspects. So I thank you one more time for like giving that wonderful and lovely speech. As you can see from the comments, like how many people are praising you. So yeah, on behalf of them, I once again thank you for this. Now, I think, as you know, that we are doing this forum, and after this forum, we have so many sessions. So why we are doing this forum? What is the purpose that we are together here? So before this forum, we had several meetings, all the coordinators, and we did several virtual meetings. A bit of that will be shared by my colleague Sudha, who will just like give the youth statement, opening statement on this. So I request Sudha, who's a marine biologist, to address and address the session on this.
Thank you so much, Bharat. So thank you everyone for joining IYBN's Biodiversity Forum. Dear participants, colleagues, dignitaries, and friends, it's an honor and pleasure to speak to you on behalf of the Indian Youth Biodiversity Network. Indian Youth Biodiversity Network is an official national chapter of Global Youth Biodiversity Network and consists of a group of young, inspiring people who aim to create a positive impact at national and subnational levels. We are a network of individuals with a common goal to address various biodiversity issues and prevent the loss of biodiversity. We warmly welcome all of you to the first virtual forum for biodiversity. The purpose of this forum is to help youth better understand the updated zero draft of the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework and to develop an action plan for CBD COP15 and beyond. This is a follow-up on the online consultation that IYBN had organized in January 2021. The first edition of the Indian Youth Biodiversity Network's online capacity building and consultation workshop was successfully completed on 23rd and 24th January of 2021. The consultation process included discussions on major sectors and as a start to address the issues of biodiversity conservation in India. The topics of discussion were education, economy, protected areas, marine and freshwater conservation, community conservation, human rights and inequalities, and traditional knowledge as well. Valuable opinions and perspectives of Indian youth were collected to draft a National Youth Manifesto and Indian Youth Position Paper. The major outcomes of the discussions emphasized the need to have a strong bottom-up approach for conservation and the importance to engage youth from all sectors as well as the indigenous communities. Hence, this forum has been established to discuss further on each outcome through various sessions by inviting eminent speakers, government representatives, scientists to collect their views and perspectives through a mutual dialogue between the experts on the subject and participants. IYBN aims to ensure that youth voices and ideas are included in the zero draft consultation process, allowing them to raise the achievable ambition of the Youth Biodiversity Framework. We are convinced that young people can make a difference if they are given the opportunity and the right to participate in the process of developing policies that will shape their future. The objective of every session is to build a deeper understanding of biodiversity crisis, its drivers and consequences, as well as the past and current efforts to address it. Second, to empower young people to understand what can be done to address this crisis and how they can play their part in choosing a role to address it. Third, to collect initial views and perspectives from young people about the relationship with biodiversity and its future. Fourth, to mobilize the Indian youth community to achieve coordinated youth action for the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework and compiling an Indian youth position statement. Fifth, IYBN position paper will be compiled with youth ideas and perspectives after the consultation meeting, which will be submitted to relevant stakeholders, including the Global Youth Biodiversity Network, European Union, Expertise France, and relevant national authorities. We, the Indian Youth Biodiversity Network, once again welcome all the participants to the first edition of the Biodiversity Forum. We hope to rebuild harmony between people and nature for a sustainable and equitable India. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sudha. It was wonderful, like how we started. Now, I think I invite the participants to raise the questions, but before, let me like ask Murthy sir about, because he has been involved a lot on the ground at grassroots level, and I know him like last 10 years. So we know about nature-based solutions, and now we are talking about we are part of the solutions. Now, you know that when you see, like, especially in Madhya Pradesh, where you have worked a lot, there are individuals who have done remarkable jobs. But from this individual to collectiveness, and how can we change, how can we bring that from individual to collectiveness so that we can define the we part of the solution? And following to that, now once we say nature-based solutions, so how can we understand nature-based solutions so that we can address in this?
So, Bharat, your question is about how to execute the nature-based solutions. Like, matlab, when I was there in Madhya Pradesh State Biodiversity Board, like I said, we have to take care of our land resources and we have to improve upon our land resources. One very simple thing that we can improve upon the wastelands around, because ownership of the land lies with some other department. That's very essential, especially I'm speaking with respect to India. If it is a government land, then you have to have a coordination with those people and then ask the youth to collect the seeds from every season, which otherwise we throw out. Like Mrs. Archana was telling, villagers doesn't want fruit trees around because their land does have elephants around, but other parts of the land does not have that much of elephant related issues. So where we don't have elephant related issues, we can, instead of wasting the seeds around, we can collect the seeds and dribble them soon after the first rains. So that now, as on today, that particular land is totally barren. Let something start coming there as a green solution. And in the times to come, natural vegetation will take over there. But at the same time, when we start doing this, let us not take any exotics around. And we have to remember certain very important issues here. One is like Azadirachta indica. Azadirachta indica is not a forest tree. If we are going to take up this particular task in a degraded forest area. And similarly, Pongamia pinnata is not a forest tree. They are all domesticated plants. And then ask the people to grow these fruit trees in their backyards, kitchen gardens. So these are some of the natural solutions, but most of the solutions are to be site specific and local specific. Better to speak to the locals before we want to have a particular idea of doing some solution there and start doing a reverse thing there. It should not happen, because locals' customs and locals' issues need to be fully taken care. It's better to involve the locals from the planning stage itself. For that only I was telling, please requesting the youth to go to the rural areas, stay with them, gain their confidence, then start doing something. It is easier said than done. It requires almost say 5 to 10 years time before people start believing you. So that's very important issue. I think I am able to understand what you have asked and able to give a solution which we have implemented. We were implementing it here.
Yes, sir. I think it's covered. And you explained it quite well. So I think we have some questions already here. I can see Srikar raised his hand. So maybe like Srikar can unmute himself and direct the question to the guest.
Yeah, good evening, everyone, and thanks for giving me the opportunity. And my question is, about the political will and, the people's participation regarding the biodiversity, because I want to quote a real life example which is going on right now in my state, Andhra Pradesh, where I belong to. So our political parties, are, the people across the state, we believe a project called Polavaram should be constructed, on Warfoot basis, because it provides irrigation to the 3/4 part of the state. But on the other hand, if you take Polavaram, I mean, if you want to construct Polavaram, you want to complete the construction, it's almost submerging many tribal villages, including some part of, 7 to 8 mandals of Telangana and some villages of Odisha, even many villages of Andhra Pradesh. So it's like whenever you go for an irrigation project, whenever you go for some constructing some highways or some constructing some prestigious projects, there's obviously a clash with forest or indigenous people. So who should change? Either the people will to elect political leaders who support biodiversity should come, or if that should come, how should we address such a huge number of people? Because in India, every state has its own culture, every district has its own traditions and everything. So how to address these heterogeneous people?
The question is directed to whom?
I think anyone can answer, sir. I think Archana and you.
Okay.
Archana,
I think Archana ma'am can answer it better, because
Yeah, so thank you for this question. I think one thing is very crucial in terms of this question is trying to understand, how do we assess the impact, and how do we prioritize with what we want to go ahead with. So I think for that, it is also very important that we do have environmental impact assessment, and wherein there is assessment of the construction, and wherein about the impact it is having on the people and on the area. But unfortunately, as last year we saw, and there was a wide cry amongst young people across India in terms of the changes which was proposed in the environment impact assessment, in terms of transparency and accountability. So I think it is very important at this point of time to answer your question is also to emphasize on strengthening this environmental impact assessment policies. Because that is one of the safeguards which we have in terms of the indigenous and the local communities when there is construction of infrastructure projects. So it is to strengthen the protection mechanism for the indigenous and local communities is one I would like to say. And the second thing which I would like to emphasize is that political will is something which has been lacking amongst people and amongst global leaders and local leaders as we see. And it is very crucial for each of us to understand that, development and when we are talking about a biodiversity conservation or a preservation of nature is something which needs to be ensured in a way that we are prioritizing the health of nature and prioritizing the well-being of the communities. So I think that is something which we all need to emphasize and which we all need to see in terms of the situation where there is conflict of interest. Thank you.
Srikar, I would like to say something about this issue. Of course, this particular platform doesn't give you scope to elaborate the question also. But with the question that you have asked, I have one understanding about what you asked is that you are asking something based on some very superficial information. So being passionate is very good. When you want to address such issues, you need to have a detailed research about these such projects. Then you have to make an assessment for yourself whether you are on a right side or a wrong side. Then only we will be able to comment about these issues, because you have asked about a specific Polavaram project. I have only heard the name of it. You may be knowing more details about it. So all these issues, as I said, they're all local specific. But at the same time, anyone wants to take up such issues, then you need to have very thorough research over those issues. And for your information, there is an organization by name South Asian Sun Drop, ऐसा कुछ कहते हैं उसका. Himanshu Thakkar is from Delhi, who is the expert in such aspects. Please go to the site and then make a question with him. Maybe he may be having detailed answer for you for this particular project. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Srikar.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you, Archana. I think we will take the last final question from our guest from Pakistan. Maybe it can direct to Christian directly. I think Pfizer is asking about what grassroots solutions-based approaches can be advised for given chapters to continue the work on the issue. So, Christian, if you are there, you can.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you please repeat the question? Unfortunately, it was cut on my end.
Okay, sure. The question is, what grassroots solutions-based approaches can be advised for given chapters to continue the work on the issue?
All right, when it comes to crossroads solutions, I think today a lot more people than in the years before are aware of the importance of addressing environmental issues. A lot of people are now talking about climate, which is a good development. There are much fewer people that are talking about biodiversity, but I think it's still very different from country to country. So my suggestion would be to always try to tell people that everything is connected, that you cannot think about mitigating climate change without addressing biodiversity loss. You mentioned before nature-based solutions, which is an issue that is getting a lot of tractions. But there are also a lot of problems with this concept, actually. The problem is that there is no definition for what nature-based solutions actually are. You know, there are companies that are telling us that just by planting more and more trees, we're going to solve everything and that this is a nature-based solution. I think we have to tell people that nature-based solutions need to have a real impact that is measurable, and that this cannot be done by just repeating the same that we did in the past. You know, just planting trees is not going to help us. What I told you before is how we do it, what kind of trees, where we plant them, how we involve people in the process. I think when it comes to cross-cutting solution, it's about bringing the climate and the biodiversity community together, thinking, you know, that that the problems are interlinked with each other, but that the solutions also need to be interlinked. So for instance, always when we're having these meetings, I see a lot of excited environmentalists, but where are the young bankers? Where are the young people that are working for business and all these kind of things? You know, it's easy to point the finger and to say, you know, we don't want to work together with bankers because banks are bad, but, you know, we need to find solutions together. And my final point on this is nature-based solutions is a good example for this. Stop the same also means stop the greenwashing once and for all. You know, we can't allow other people to just like abuse terms like nature-based solutions for whatever they want. We need to win back the narrative, and we have to show people that they can only call something a nature-based solution when it really does something for nature, when it really changes it. And again, monocultures, just planting trees here and there is not going to solve it. Biodiversity conservation, climate change mitigation for me also means that we need to address equity, that we need to think about the people, the communities, indigenous people. I think Archana said it, education is equally important. You know, if it's easy for me, I mean, let's face it, I'm white, I'm male, I'm from one of the richest countries in the world. A lot of the problems that people in the global south are suffering from is because of people like me. So if we don't recognize this fact that there is inequality in this world and that this inequality is driving biodiversity loss, is driving climate change, then we're not going to solve the problem.
Thank you, Christian. I think now we are almost at the end of the session. I would request the participants, if you have any questions, you can get back to me. I can directly send the questions to the speakers, and I can provide their email IDs to you, so you can directly ask them. Now, I think we will just have the closing remarks from all speakers, maybe like in 1 minute. But before that, we are very glad that we could actually collaborate with Given Pakistan for this. We are very grateful that they are also here, because Given Pakistan is a new chapter, so they approached us like how they can do certain things like this. So I think we are kind of collaborating because biodiversity is doesn't have boundaries. So in that way, I think we are really grateful. So I request Mariam to take the floor and provide her comments about this. And yeah. Mariam, probably you have to unmute yourself.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I just missed that. So assalamu alaikum everyone. Thank you so much. सबसे पहले तो बहसियत मेंबर ग्लोबल यूथ बायोडाइवर्सिटी नेटवर्क पाकिस्तान चैप्टर, मैं इस इवेंट के जो मेन ऑर्गेनाइजर्स हैं उनको थैंक यू करना चाहती हूँ कि आज आपने हमें दावत दी और हम यहाँ पे आए, और इट वाज अ वेरी वंडरफुल इवेंट. और इस इवेंट के हवाले से मैं कहना चाह रही थी कि पाकिस्तान की तरफ से आप लोगों के लिए ये हमारी तरफ से बहुत पजीराई और बहुत नेक ख्वाहिशात कि आपने इतना अच्छा इवेंट अरेंज किया और इतना प्रोस्पेक्टिव और इतना ज़्यादा, क्योंकि आजकल बहैसियत इंसान हम सब अपनी इकॉनमी को बेहतर बनाने में लगे हुए हैं और हर ने अपनी इकॉनमी के लिए इकोसिस्टम को बहुत ज़्यादा उसका फ़ायदा उठाया है. अपने ग्रीड में हम बहुत आगे निकल चुके हैं और हमें अब ज़रूरत है कि हम अपने लोगों को अवेयर करें, उनमें शऊर पैदा करें कि हमने अपने साथ साथ बिसाइड बीइंग ह्यूमन हमने एनिमल्स का भी ख्याल रखना है, हमने दूसरे इकोसिस्टम का भी ख्याल रखना है, बिकॉज बायोडाइवर्सिटी इज़ ऑल अबाउट द डाइवर्सिटी ऑफ ऑल द लिविंग बीइंग्स प्रेजेंट ऑन दिस प्लानट. सो और सबसे ज़्यादा मुझे इस टॉपिक से रिलेवेंट ये था कि बहुत उम्मीद है कि ये जो कई रोज़ पर मुश्तमिल वर्चुअल फोरम है जो इंडियन यूथ बायोडाइवर्सिटी नेटवर्क ने ऑर्गेनाइज़ किया है वो बहुत ज़्यादा हमारे लिए अच्छा साबित होगा. और स्पेशली जो स्लोगन है कि वी द यूथ लेट्स स्ट्राइव फॉर सोल्यूशन, दिस इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, क्योंकि हमें इसके ऊपर बहुत गौर करने की ज़रूरत है कि हम यूथ हैं और हमारी जो जितनी भी ट्रायल्स हैं हम जो करते हैं वो बहुत ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंस रखते हैं और हम इसीलिए जो हैं वो इसके हल के लिए कोशा भी हैं. सो इस बात ने तो बिला तफरीक यूथ को मुखातिब किया है कि हमें नेचर की तरफ काम करना है. तो बेशक वो हम पाकिस्तानी हों, फिर वो इंडियंस हों या साउथ एशियन रीजन के नेपालीज़ हों, बांग्लादेशी हो, कोई भी हो, हम सबका एजेंडा एक ही है. और इसके लिए हमने चाहे वो कोई छोटे से छोटा इवेंट हो या वो बड़े से बड़ा कोई हमारे पास इवेंट हो, हमने मिलकर काम करना है. क्योंकि हम बेशक पॉलिटिकल बाउंड्रीज़ ने हमें सेपरेट कर दिया है बट वी आर शेयरिंग द कॉमन रीजन, हमारा खिता एक ही है. और डेफिनेटली फिर हमारे जो रिसोर्सेज हैं वो भी सिमिलर हैं, हमारे जो माइंडसेट है लोगों का वो सिमिलर है. नॉट ओनली द माइंडसेट ऑफ द पीपल बट द माइंडसेट ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट एज वेल. जो पॉलिसी सेट होती है, जो चीज़ें सेट होती हैं, डेफिनेटली वो लोगों के हिसाब से और सर्कमस्टेंसेस के हिसाब से होती है, तो वो बहुत हद तक हमारे पास सिमिलर हैं. तो क्यों ना हम मिलकर फिर काम करें और कोई वर्चुअल इवेंट हो या कोई फील्ड एक्टिविटी हो, हम उसमें मिलकर काम करें और जो कुदरती वसाइल हैं हमारे, व्हाट वी कॉल नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज, हम उससे भी उसको बचाने में थोड़े कामयाब हो जाएं. और आई एश्योर कि पाकिस्तान यूथ बायोडाइवर्सिटी नेटवर्क हमेशा इस नौयत की पार्टनरशिप के लिए हमेशा आगे एंड व्हेन एवर इंडियन यूथ बायोडाइवर्सिटी नेटवर्क नीड एनीवन फ्रॉम अस, तो हम सब अवेलेबल हैं. फिर वो मैं हूँ या हमारे बाकी मेम्बरान हो या हमारे नेशनल कोऑर्डिनेटर हो, बल्कि पूरा पाकिस्तानियों में से, इफ़ इट इज़ about biodiversity, it is about environmental sustainability, तो हम सब आगे और एक दफ़ा फिर इंटरनेशनल यूथ बायोडाइवर्सिटी नेटवर्क को इतना खूबसूरत इवेंट अरेंज करने पर बहुत 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 मुबारकबाद और वी आर विशिंग यू अ वेरी गुड लक एंड थैंक यू सो मच फॉर हैविंग अस हियर थैंक यू
Yeah, thank you, Mariam. Thank you for joining. Really great. We are really grateful to have you. और मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा कि आपने उर्दू में बात किया है और काफी लोग यहाँ पे हिंदी जानते हैं.
Yeah, you mentioned so it was great. It was my pleasure to speak in my national language and thank you so much. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया था.
हाँ, आपने हमें भी प्रेरित किया है कि हम भी अपनी भाषा में बात करें तो बहुत खूबसूरत रहेगा. तो मैं फिलहाल के लिए मूर्ति सर को दावत देना चाहूंगा कि वो अपना एक क्लोजिंग रिमार्क दे 1 मिनट में, क्योंकि मैं आपको बताना चाहूंगा ये गिवन चैप्टर है. अभी नेक्स्ट और एक मीटिंग होने वाला है मेक्सिको का, वो मुझे मैसेज पे मैसेज कर रहे हैं. तो मैं चाहूंगा कि मूर्ति सर और अर्चना और क्रिस्टियन अपना एक क्लोजिंग रिमार्क दें और हम फिर इससे मिलेंगे.
तो दावत का एक मीनिंग जो मैं समझता हूँ वो डिनर है. तो कब डिनर देंगे मुझे नहीं पता भरत. So my closing remarks is that it's a good effort that you people have started around. But as I said time and again, I'm very closely associated with Bharat. Of course, with Christian, I have some amount of one-to-one contact. But me and Bharat are connected with almost 11 years. And then I request all the youth, जिसके पास possibility है, please go and spend your valuable time in villages. Because unless you are going to make strong foundations there for yourself and then do some constructive work there with respect to biodiversity, biodiversity will not have much of hope around. Because most of the multinationals have taken over with respect to agriculture biodiversity. Whatever the seeds they provide, farmers are forced to use it, or they are attracted to use it. You can use both the ways. Market has taken over. So unless we take care of these issues at the ground level, local seeds and local varieties, most of the places got extinguished. And we need to restore whatever local seeds are there and local crops are there, local trees are there. That's very essential. So this is what I would like to give as my advice to the youngsters and young brothers and sisters. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, Archana, your closing remarks.
Yeah, I would like to congratulate each one of you and specifically for the Global Youth Biodiversity Network India and Pakistan and the Global Biodiversity Youth Network as well. Also, I would like to say that yes, we young people are interested and have been participating and working towards biodiversity conservation in our own levels. So I request and appeal that let us continue to work on that. And also the last remark which I would like to say is every bit of our action is important. So let us contribute in whichever capacity we are able to do so. And the second, let us continue to speak up and raise our voice because that is very important. And seeking accountability from our world leaders in terms of biodiversity policies and actions. And the third, it is very important, as rightly Murthy said, that it is very important for us young people to be aware about the grassroots realities. And to be aware about the grassroots realities, it is very important to connect with the indigenous people and the groups who are working with the indigenous people. And that would be very crucial that let us amplify each other, support each other, and stand in solidarity with each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Archana, for the inspiring message. I think before Christian comes, I think Faisal from Pakistan wanted to say something. So Faisal, can you just express yourself?
Thank you very much. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, Faisal, go ahead.
थैंक यू। तो मैं समझता हूँ कि शायद मेरे पास बड़ा कम वक्त है, लेकिन मैं चाहूंगा कि कुछ जुमले जरूर कहूँ। आप मुझे बता सकेंगे कि मेरे पास 1 मिनट है, 30 सेकंड है, या थोड़ा सा ज्यादा टाइम?
1 मिनट का वक्त है मैंने आपके लिए दिया है।
ओके, थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर द, बहुत शानदार आपका प्रोग्राम रहा। हमारी तरफ से मरियम ने बात की, और ये एक इब्तदा है, मैं कहूँगा कि यूथ ऑफ द रीजन, जिसको हम साउथ एशिया कहते हैं, और यहाँ जो हमारे बहुत सारे मसले हैं, बहुत सारे इश्यूज हैं, वो बहुत सिमिलर हैं, खासतौर पे जब हम बायोडाइवर्सिटी की बात करते हैं। और ये शायद एक इब्तदा है, और बहुत अच्छी इब्तदा है कि हम किस तरह मिलके काम कर सकते हैं। हमने आज बहुत सारी चीज़ें सीखी हैं, और आज का जो दिन है बड़ा इम्पोर्टेंट है इस इशू के हवाले से, कि हम इस चीज़ को समझ सकें कि ये हमारे सर्वाइवल का सवाल है, ये हमारी बका का मसला है, और किस तरह हम अपने बहुत कम वसाइल के साथ या बहुत सारे बैरियर्स के साथ भी बहुत कुछ कर सकते हैं अपने खित्ते में, बायोडाइवर्सिटी के हवाले से, अपने सर्वाइवल को बेहतर करने के हवाले से, उन प्रैक्टिसेस को रोकने के हवाले से। एक जो बहुत यूनिफॉर्म अप्रोच रही है, या एक आम रवैया रहता है कि हम बहुत ज़्यादा बात करते हैं उन चीज़ों पे जो बैरियर्स होते हैं। एज अ ऑप्टिमिस्ट एनवायरमेंटलिस्ट मुझे लगता है कि हमें, चाहे 100 में से कोई एक चीज़ अच्छी है, 2 पॉइंट है, हमें पूरा फोकस देना चाहिए उन चीज़ों पे जो बहुत सपोर्टिव है। जिस तरह अर्चना ने बात की, मोती सर ने बात की, क्रिश्चियन ने बात की, और हमें बताया इसमें से बहुत सारे पॉइंट के किस तरह हम अपने काम को जारी रख सकते हैं, अपने घर से शुरू करके, अपने मोहल्ले से, अपने इलाके से, अपने शहर से। और जब हम कोई एक काम करते हैं तो वो सिर्फ एक काम नहीं होता, बिकॉज यू सेट अ गुड एग्जाम्पल। और जब आप एक अच्छी मिसाल कायम करते हैं तो बहुत सारे लोग उसको फॉलो करते हैं, और बाद वक़्त आपको पता होता है, ये नहीं होता, लेकिन कुछ अरसे बाद एक इम्पैक्ट देखने को मिलता है। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया फैजल। मैं now I think request Christian to give his final message. He's a natural orator, he doesn't need any script, so he can inspire all of us.
That's so sweet, but I use the script many times. Before I start, I just wanted to thank Faisal and everybody who was just speaking in their own language. I didn't understand you, but I find the diversity of languages so beautiful. And I'm not a native to English. I had to struggle a lot before I was able to communicate with other people. And I really hated it to sit in an international meeting, wanting to say something. And then I was even writing down sentences on paper, but I just felt so shy and uncomfortable to speak in English. And I think a lot of you are feeling like this. And I just want to encourage you, use your own languages, be proud of all the diversity that you have, all the traditions. It's not something that you should be ashamed of. It's something that we should praise, that we should further develop. And I'm so grateful for Faisal. It was one of the first times that I heard Urdu. I don't know what other languages I heard today, but please cherish this diversity that you have. And to contradict Murad, I actually gonna use the script now. One of the most inspiring quotes that I heard in a long time was from Martin Luther King. And, you know, the struggle that we have with biodiversity, I wish it would be a struggle that we could solve from one day to another. But the people that are here in this call, like Mr. Muti, sir, they know it's something that people have dedicated their whole lives to. And when it comes to civil rights, at least in the US, it was also a struggle that is still going on for today. It was a struggle that took decades. And in the middle of the struggle, just before Martin Luther King was assassinated, he wrote down a couple of lines that I want to share with you and that I hope will inspire you to keep up your work. Martin Luther King was saying, "This is the most important and crucial period of your lives. For what you do now and what you decide now may well determine which way your life shall go. The question is whether you have a proper, a solid, and a sound blueprint. I want to suggest some of the things that should be in your life's blueprint. Number one in your life's blueprint should be a deep belief in your own dignity, your worth, and your own somebodyness. Don't allow anybody to make you feel that you're nobody. always feel that you count, always feel that you have worth, and always feel that your life has ultimate significance. Second, in your life's blueprint, you must have a basic principle, the determination to achieve excellence in your various fields of endeavor. You're going to be deciding as the days, as the years unfold, what you will do in your life, what your life's work will be. Set out to do it well. Be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a highway, just be a trail. If you can't be the sun, be a star. For it isn't by size that you win or you fail. Be the best of whatever you are. Finally, in your life's blueprint must be a commitment to the eternal principle of beauty, love, and justice. Life for none of us has been a crystal stair, but we must keep moving. We must keep going. If you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But by all means, keep moving. Thank you so much.
That's really inspiring, I would say. I never heard this speech from you, but thank you. And I'm glad that this session is being recorded, and I think many of us will be listening to you again. So yes, we would like to move on now. And everyone here, thank you so much for participating, and we value your time and we value your opinion. There will be so many other sessions coming up. One such session, there will be two sessions tomorrow. One will be on transformative education, and the second will be human rights. So keep watching us in the social media. We'll be sharing so many things, and you will receive emails from us. And I once again thank you, each and every one here who joined. I would just like to thank my coordinators, my team members, starting from Sudha, Shruti Ajit, and Shraddha, Priyansh, Hima, Jonathan, and Rima. Like without them, I think this forum wouldn't be possible. So I once again thank everyone, and we look forward to see you in further sessions. Thank you so much for joining. You all have a great day. Take care.